Luis Vazquez reportedly on the way, but what about the other roster moves? What do you think of the Cardinals City Connect jerseys? How about Trevor Bauer? If you were the Cubs, would you sign Trevor Bauer? It feels like a blackball is in the works right now for Trevor pitching in the Mexican League and dominating. We're going to talk about that and more, including Nico Hoerner and Barrett punched out AJ 18 years ago. I know where I was when that happened. All that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. I know I ask you every time. Please do share with your friends, and let's talk some Cubs baseball. There he is, Anthony Pasquale. I'm Mick Gillespie. Great to have all of you guys with us as we talk about the Cubs. I got my City Connect Cubs hat on for a purpose, right? But before we even get into that, I don't even want to. We'll catch up on each other. Let's get into it right now. Luis Vazquez on the way. We've been calling for this. I don't know why it took so long, but now he's a great defender. I don't know what the bat's going to look like right away, but he's coming to help the Cubs.
Yeah, it's a little bit interesting that it comes now, right? With the Cubs saying that Dansby, Swanson, and Nico Hoerner should be ready to go back into the lineup today. It feels like this move is about a week overdue. Like it felt like something you should do as soon as Nico Hoerner tweaks his hamstring with Dansby Swanson already on the shelf. And here are some of my thoughts. I thought originally with them not calling him up, I thought it was indicative that they didn't think he was ready to play in the big leagues. And now that they're calling him up, it means one of two things, right? It means the Cubs have had just about enough of Miles Mastrobuoni and Nick Madrigal, or one of the injuries, Dansby Swanson or Nico Hoerner, is more serious than they thought. It's one of those two things.
Or Christopher Morel's foot.
Right, but he's still played. Like, he hasn't even sat out. So I feel like that one.
But he was limping around at the end of the game, too.
Yeah,
right?
I feel like that might
Throw
be
it in the mix. Throw it in the mix.
It's in the mix. It's A, B, and C, and it's one of those. It's one of those three. It has to be.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're onto something here, and it's going to be interesting when they say what the deal is. But hopefully Morel's okay. He's been such an integral part of the offense, his ability to hit home runs. I want Nico back. Obviously, I want Dansby to be there as well. I could take or leave Mastrobuoni or Madrigal. And look, that's not personal. This guy's a better defender. None of those guys are hitting. Madrigal puts the ball in play, but he doesn't have the same contact that he had when he was coming up, dude. It's a lot of soft ground outs, and he's just not really a guy you worry about in the lineup.
Yeah, he does that thing where he sticks his ass out and flails the bat at the outside pitch, and it's a slow roller to second base. Like, that's not a contact skill. That's just a bad hitter.
Yeah, right. It's a rollover, right?
Exactly.
So what do you think about Nico? I mean, I talked about this, and they say he's going to be ready. We kind of got into it a second ago. I don't know what I don't know what the logic was, unless they really thought Nico was going to be coming back every single day. And it's just like he just never came back. But it hurts the team not putting him on the IL in my mind.
Yeah, by the end of it, you end up with him gone for, I think, 5 or 6 games, which means that he'd be more than halfway done with his IL stint by now if you put him on the IL right away. Now, he was in the lineup that day and got scratched with hamstring soreness or tight hamstring, which is usually like, oh, all right, he'll be in the lineup tomorrow.
Right.
And then he wasn't. And I was like, oh, all right, he'll be in the lineup tomorrow. And then he wasn't. And that happened 5 more times. So it felt like it was long overdue that the Cubs would make a move to call up Vazquez and put Hoerner on the IL. But it's even more puzzling that the move finally comes on the day that Counsell said that Hoerner will be back.
Yeah, right. And then the other thing, too, is what's going on with all these hamstring injuries. There's an issue here, and it's either bad luck, which would be extremely bad luck.
Yeah.
I mean, think about this. The Cubs, up until now, and I got to give them credit, I've criticized them for not allowing their minor league starters to throw more pitches than they do. I think they've done a much better job this year of allowing starters to start, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important. I think you got to go through the lineup a couple times, 3 times to really get ready for the big leagues. You want that struggle so that when Jordan Wicks gets to the big leagues and he's never done it before. I mean, you got to give these guys experience, right? But the reason why is they were worried about arm injuries, and that's going to happen, right? I mean, you lost Cole Franklin and you lost Richard Gallardo, but you've got to be pushing to develop guys to help you at the big league level. I'm looking at this and I'm like, they have to examine what's going on here, which I'm sure they probably have already started, because it's more than a coincidence in my mind.
Yeah, it's more than a coincidence. It's a baseball problem. It's something that's been going on for like the last 2-3 years. And I mean, you look even on the South side, they're like the poster child for hamstring injuries. Like it happens all the time. And I don't know if it's about playing in Chicago with the inconsistent weather, because I know weather affects those soft tissues, and sometimes you're a little too tight or you don't stretch enough playing in the cold or whatever. I just feel like it's been happening way too much. And for the Cubs, it's offense, defense, pitching. The hits just keep coming on the injury side of things.
Yeah, I'm with you. So we'll find out. It's not just a Cubs issue, but if the Cubs were one of the teams that could go and figure out a way to curve this, it's going to make their organization a tick better than everyone else. So we know that there are some roster moves coming, right? Dansby Swanson, we're expecting him to come off of the IL. That's one right there. And then obviously Luis Vazquez is coming, according to Mom.
Yes. So those are the two things that we're anticipating being announced. Maybe even as soon as you guys are listening to this, those two things should be coming today. Now, here's the question. Miles Mastrobuoni has options left. He can be sent down to AAA. Nick Madrigal doesn't. So the Cubs would have to designate Nick Madrigal for assignment if they wanted to fully just, bring shortstop, replace it with second base, shortstop. And then obviously Hoerner comes back today too. The other thing, which I would hate, and I know you would hate, but he seems to be the only other option on the hitting side of things to be sent down, is Pete Crow-Armstrong.
I wouldn't do it.
It's you activate Dansby and you send down Mastrobuoni, one. You call up Vazquez and you either designate Madrigal for assignment or send PCA back down to the minors. Those are the only 2-3 players that could be affected. Mastrobuoni, Madrigal, and Pete Crow, because you're not doing anything with Tauchman. And unless it means like Happ or Morel is going on the IL, which of course you cross your fingers and don't want that to happen, those are the only guys that could be moved.
I like Pete Crow-Armstrong for the reason that we saw against the Pirates, 9th inning. Put him on first base, he steals second, and now you're a single away from tying the game. He's got amazing speed. I like him defensively better than anybody else that the Cubs have, and I think that he can help the team win there. It may be time for Madrigal to move on to another spot, and open that up for somebody that has options, like a Vazquez, that you can be interchangeable. He just doesn't make that much of a difference. And the double plays and the weak ground outs, I mean, it's just, but I've always been a fan of his, and I'm not throwing him under the bus, but you watch it and it is what it is, man. It's hard not to see it for what it is.
Yeah. And if you do move on from Nick Madrigal, I think if anything, it says that you have enough confidence with Christopher Morel at third that you don't need that security blanket for the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning.
And I do. I think he's there.
I think he's there. And if that's just better for your organization anyway. So obviously when they signed him or traded for him, I should say, I was excited. I had a buddy that's a diehard Sox fan text me and say, you just got a guy that's going to hit 290 for the next 10 years. And I was really excited about that, but he just hasn't looked the same since his injuries, and you can't blame him. Seems like a good clubhouse guy. And, if he does move on, we wish him luck, but this is about winning.
You got him out.
I do. I think that's the only way, because if you send Pete Crow down, you're not serious about win.
Right. You don't have a guy that can change the game with his defense and his speed.
You need your 25, 26 best players. Yeah. And Pete Crow is one of them. And Luis Vazquez is one of them.
Can we call him Hollywood Pete, please?
Yes. Hollywood Pete is one of them. And Luis Vazquez is one of them, and Nick Madrigal and Miles Mastrobuoni are not.
All right, this is going to stir you guys up. This is going to stir everyone on this channel up because Trevor Bauer is so polarizing. But at this point, could the Cubs be the team that throws up the middle finger at MLB and signs this guy? Because I'm watching his videos. He's slicing and dicing everyone in Mexico. Everywhere he goes, he's amazing. I know that he has issues. I don't even know what to think about some of the lawsuits after what happened, and he proved it was BS. You know, the one with and she's actually right now being indicted and stuff, or whatever they call that, for lying. But he was a jerk when he played. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. He just wasn't a good dude. But that shouldn't hold against him to play if he's one of the best players. I don't buy into that, and I would love to see the Cubs go out. Even what if they turned him into a closer? Like all of a sudden, like, hey, Bauer's our closer.
Yeah.
Now he would be one of the 5 best starters, but what if he came in and closed games? I mean, we need one of those guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, a few things. First of all, I'm not super educated on all of the lawsuits and everything. I just know that he's not currently in any trouble, and I'm not here to comment on the legality or morality of any of this. We're just here to talk about him as a baseball player. And
Good point.
There's no way that you could say he's not one of the best baseball players in the world. And the best baseball players in the world should be playing in the best league there is to offer, and that's the major leagues. And we saw him briefly in spring training get a few opportunities to pitch, and he looked really good against major league hitting, and he's gone overseas the last few seasons and looked really good there. There are plenty of teams that need starting pitching more than the Cubs, and I'll just put that out there. The Cubs starters have been the one facet that have really not been a problem this year. They've been really good, and even when you have had to use Wesneski and Brown, they've been really good. So I don't think the fit is particularly there. But if you came and told me he's going to save 30 games and not blow any, I'm signing up for that. I think anybody would with the way this bullpen has been. And I'm sure Trevor would be open to closing games to get back into the big leagues as well.
He's taking the league minimum.
Yeah.
Which tells you
paid by LA, I think.
Right. Which tells you right now that there's a blackball situation.
Yeah. And it's not about money then for him. It's wanting to play.
He just wants to play, but they're shutting him down. I'm sure that this is coming from New York, and they're saying that you can't sign him. And we don't have George Steinbrenner right now, who would just basically say, hey, if he's going to help the Yankees win a World Series, I'm going to get him. You know,
yeah.
we just don't have an owner like that in the game right now. But I think he could help. Now, you know, what he did or what he didn't do, I think you really did a nice job of kind of telling you what we think about it on our channel. We're just trying to get the Cubs to win as many games as possible. All right, this was something we had to talk about, gang. We have to talk about this. I mean, what is this?
Yeah, let's start with just what it is. I put in there city. They're boring. It's a boring jersey. It's the same thing as usual with less letters. That's all it is. But you look at Detroit, and I've heard people call that certain things. Dallas is Big D. Atlanta is the A. I've never heard anybody call St. Louis the Lou. I've heard people call in New York, the Bronx or Queens, the certain neighborhoods. I've heard all these different. Miami is called South Beach. There's a million different cities with their own kind of nicknames. St. Louis isn't one of them. I've never heard the Lou before, so I don't really get that. That part's a little bit confusing to me. And then aside from that, it's just the same as their red jerseys with uglier hats.
Yeah, right. It's it honestly feels like Little League baseball 15 years ago. Now Little League, you see travel ball teams and they have better uniforms than this, right? Nobody, first off, what kid would want the STL across the front of a hat? Right?
I'll give them.
It doesn't even intermatch. It doesn't even interlock. Or
yeah.
Anything. It's somebody ripped them all apart.
The original, their actual logo on a hat doesn't look bad. The STL, and it's all connected. And I think the Cardinal standing on a baseball bat is a good logo too. But I don't get the Lou. I think I've seen people saying that it's Lou Malnati's jersey, which is awesome.
Right, which is what we were going to talk pizza for a second. Just don't let us get out of this without talking about the real Lou. which is deep dish pizza that you go in. I think when you go to Illuminati's, you go in when you have like something to watch on TV. You sit at the bar, you order the pizza. They make amazing drinks. Like that's a great bar there.
Yeah.
And then you watch the game. It takes 45 minutes to get your pizza. By the time you eat your appetizers and drinks, you got enough room for maybe one piece. Pack it up, take it home. And then when it's cold, it's better than when it's hot.
Yeah, and then you got a week's worth of lunch and or dinner.
Yeah.
And you're still cruising on the
thick,
Illuminati.
man.
But
So thick. I asked you, is Illuminati's like the number one for you in the city? And I say it is for me.
For me, it is too. It's always been our family's go-to. I know Giordano's is a big one, and Pequod's, Uno. Like, there's a lot.
I
of
like
different
Giordano's
options.
too. Yeah.
But Illuminati's was kind of the first one I was ever introduced to, so it's always been my favorite. And you really, from what I've heard, you can't go wrong with any of them. But I just prefer Illuminati's.
Yeah. Okay, me too.
So, what are your thoughts? We talked about the Cardinals, City Connects being kind of flubs, and most of the leagues have been bad.
They suck, most of them. I love you. You and I just debated about the Cubs, and I'm
Yeah.
wearing my hat on purpose. But I just don't get, like, look, the cool thing about the Cubs and even the White Sox is that one is Wrigleyville and one is the South Side. Like, that's what they are.
Yeah, it's very iconic.
The Yankees should be the Bronx, and the Mets should be like Queens or wherever they
exactly.
play.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the Yankees don't have one yet.
I know, but that's what it should be, though, right? And this right here, like, I've never heard it called the Lou. It's like, instead of St. Louis or Cardinals, you just threw the Lou on there. Like, is that the Louisville Cardinals, your AAA affiliate? Bad design. So many bad designs. I look through and, like, the Pirates are bad. Cleveland's bad. Like, you guys got to do a better job of, I mean, think about all the cool stuff you could do if you came up with something creative for every team. And then you and I kind of got into this. I love this hat and I love the jerseys, and they've switched the jerseys and the hat. You know, the pants and jerseys have changed a little bit over the years, but it's always been this logo right here. I love the C with the Chicago star in there. I love the color. I love the colors. I just love it. Now, you didn't like the dark as much, the pants.
Yeah, I wish they went. I think powder blue and baseball is such a good combination, and I wasn't even around for them, but I miss seeing even highlights of the Cubs' old jerseys, the powder blue with the blue pinstripes. So I wish they went and fed into the powder blue and then had like Wrigleyville. Like, you know how some of the shirts, the City Connect shirts are powder blue and they say Wrigleyville? I think that would have been an awesome jersey. And I just think navy blue on navy blue is kind of a weird combo. I think the design and that, like, Wrigleyville is better than what, 25 out of the 30 teams did on their jerseys. And I have the hat, I have a jersey, I have a shirt. I like it. But I think
you wear the hat all the time on the show.
Do. I love the hat. It's my favorite.
I love it too.
I just wish they went a little more powder blue or a little more red, because.
But won't they switch it up this year? Didn't they have white? They had white a couple years ago.
Yeah. So the Cubs decided not to wear their City Connects, I think, at all this year. I don't think we'll see them at all, which means that they'll be the first batch of teams to get a second one next year.
Okay. Is that how that works?
I think so. I'm not totally sure, but like some teams really like the White Sox love theirs. The Nationals love theirs. Like, there's a few teams that really like the ones that they have. The Rays keep winning in there, so they keep wearing them, and those are weird ones. Super
I know people have told me they like those. I like the neon. I do like the neon.
But I'm interested to see what the Cubs would do with another one, because I thought they nailed the jersey saying Wrigleyville. I can't imagine it saying anything but Wrigleyville.
No. It would just be colors, man. Wouldn't you think it'd just be like colors?
Maybe switch the colors, or I guess maybe you could put North Side instead of Wrigleyville. No. I feel like Wrigleyville is a slam dunk.
The City Connect was made for the Cubs to have Wrigleyville.
Yeah, and for the Sox to have Southside. I think both of those they nailed.
Perfect. And I don't say a lot of good stuff about the Sox on here. I love those too. I like the black pinstripe, or whatever, white pinstripe. I like that. They look kind of like gangsterish, like they just remind me of like Al Capone type jerseys and stuff. Like, they're cool. So I tipped my cap to them. Talking about that, Michael Barrett punched AJ Pierzynski 18 years ago today. I mean, what a memory.
Yeah, we gave a lot of love to the Sox City Connects jerseys. This is where I guess where the love stops, because that was back when the rivalry was at its peak. I was really young, and I thought it was like the craziest thing I had ever seen when Barrett punched AJ. I'm an AJ myself. I could go by AJ,
Nice.
but I think one of the reasons I never did was because I didn't like Pierzynski growing up. Um, but, he's one of those guys that if he was on your team, you loved him. And if he wasn't, you hated him. So obviously we hated him. But catcher on catcher crime, that's pretty rare.
Yeah. Barrett was definitely, kind of a hard-nosed guy. That wasn't the only fight that he got into. He wasn't afraid to take on his own teammates if he didn't think they were playing the game the right way.
Yeah.
Always liked him, like what that represented. I like those blue-collar guys. And honestly, I like AJ Pierzynski too. I heard him on a broadcast one time, and I remember thinking, this guy's pretty good. Like, now I didn't like him when he was a Sox, but you know what? I mean, that's normally a whole roster of guys, so It's not just him. But I respect them, and that was awesome. Thinking about like a Cubs White Sox brawl. Every time I see the video, I'm like, man, first off, I can't believe it was 18 years ago. And then secondly, it's like, wow, now, I mean, I feel like everybody hugs each other,
Yeah. Yeah.
Not the same thing. All right. Here's a story to keep an eye on. The Cubs have gone out and they're netting like a bunch of minor league pitchers, and Bleacher Nation did a nice job of kind of like putting it out there. I've already seen Dalton Moats pitch. He was with the Tampa Bay organization, but it's like, I want to say like 9 different guys or something. Of different minor league pitchers.
The biggest old name, former Brave, and I think Brewer as well, Julio Teheran.
Yeah.
He's pitching with AAA, and he's been okay. There's
Dan
a lot of
Straley
guys.
was pretty good back in the day.
Yeah. I think there's a bullpen guy as well that they signed. Obviously, Carl Edwards Jr. is a name in that list as well, that they signed and has been pitching in the minor league. So I think the Cubs are well aware, especially after all the injuries this season, that you can never have enough arms, and they're just putting more into their system. And, if something clicks for one guy, that could mean a big deal for the major league team, or, a guy like Ethan Roberts coming back from injury. If he continues to deal, he could be a guy that makes an impact. Carl Edwards Jr. we talked about, Porter Hodge. We've yet to see him fully unleashed at the big league level, but as they keep supplementing these minor leagues, that gives you a higher percentage that one of those guys works out.
Yeah. Nico Ziglin, Mitchell Transky, Carlo Reyes, Aaron Perry, Kyle McGowan, who I've even seen pitch. What I like is that Carter and Jed are going out there and they're saying, hey, we know we need bullpen guys. What if we go out and we just pick up these guys, find a spot for them, and maybe we find another Mark Leiter Jr. Maybe we find another Julian Merriweather. I mean, like, those weren't guys that they were just basically the same thing, like you throw out a line and you catch them. It wasn't like you developed them or anything. So I like that. And I like the fact that you see the one thing I can say about Jed Hoyer that, and I can say a lot of things because I do like him, but the one thing that I love about him in charge is that he's just creative. Like, he's always trying to do something like this, like the contracts last year. I mean, I'm watching Bellinger and I like his swing and everything else, but he's already been hurt. He hasn't really put up the big numbers. And it's like, hey, we're not stuck with this guy for 7 years. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you sign Shota. He's been amazing, but it's an incentive latent contract. Nobody's going to be upset about signing that or, paying him out. So it's just cool kind of seeing what we're doing right now. And this is another thing where, maybe it pays off. I don't know, but at least they're not just sitting back there and saying, hey, you know what? We don't care. We'll just roll with what we got,
Exactly.
All right. Braves in town taking on the Cubs at Wrigley Field. How about the pitching matchup? My guy, you guys know I love this dude, Javier Assad, 4.0, 149 ERA. He's always pitching for respect. because I feel like the analytics crowd doesn't like Assad. And then Charlie Morton, who is one of Atlanta's best pitchers, Cubs got to him pretty good last time, 3-1, 3.52 ERA. 3 games with the Braves, and we never see him. Cubs and Braves never play again.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, yesterday the Braves played a doubleheader. So Reynaldo Lopez and Chris Sale both pitched in that game, and I think that should be music to Cubs fans' ears because both of those guys shut the Cubs down when they played in Atlanta last week. So you missed out on Bryce Elder, you missed out on Reynaldo Lopez, and you missed out on Chris Sale. Now, Charlie Morton pitches tonight. Max Fried will go against Justin Steele tomorrow. We'll get into that later. But the good thing is the Cubs are facing the guy who they had some success against, and they have one of their best pitchers on the mound tonight, Javier Assad, a 1.49 ERA so far this season. We've both been big Assad truthers, big Assad fans so far this year, and think that, like, no matter how it shakes out injury-wise and depth-wise, this guy has earned the right to not only be your 5th starter, he could be an all-star this year. So love seeing him pitch. Just like Imanaga, you're confident when he's on the mound that you're going to have a chance to win. And obviously the Braves are one of the best teams in baseball, but you have them at home this week, and hopefully you can get 2 out of 3 from them.
Yeah, no doubt. And that ERA is so high at 1.49 when you compare it to Shota, right?
Yeah.
Next game is going to be Justin Steele against Max Fried. We'll kind of get into that. And I guess third game of the series, we don't know yet. Finally, what do you do with Kyle Hendricks?
Yeah, it's a big question. We talked a little bit on the watch party about it. What if they decided to make him an opener, because it seems like his first time through is usually pretty good, and that's about it. I also think if you throw him to the Wolves and have him start on Thursday against Atlanta, then that's kind of your parting decision with him. Like, it's either he goes and pitches against the Braves and proves he could pitch, or they rock him around the town and that's it for him. But I do think you got to decide quick. You can't keep throwing him out there every 5th day and hoping you get a good start, because these games are valuable. We were once, I think, 9 or 10 games over 500, and quickly that's now only 4 games over 500. And we're losing games blown by the bullpen, and the offense is in a slump, and we're losing games 3-2 and winning games 1-0. So when you have Hendricks pitch and you're guaranteed to give up 5 or 6, that game's a lot harder to win, especially with the way this offense has been.
Love the comment section. Somebody in the comment section, and you guys, I read them, and Anthony and I both love them. Somebody said, if his name wasn't Kyle Hendricks, where would he be? And as much as I like Kyle Hendricks, and I do, that's a good question, because we all know what the answer is.
Yeah. We just don't want to say it.
Nobody wants to say it. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us. Get in the comment section. This was a extra long show today, but Cubs and Braves tonight, and they make that roster move. Look for a video right here on the Cubs baseball channel. Thanks for hanging, and go Cubs.
Go Cubs.